Welcome, everyone. It is me yet again, Angelo Robles, on a Friday afternoon. No tie needed today on a Friday. And welcome, I guess I could say, to Family Office TV. And as many of you know, it's a love and passion of mine to do my broadcast, to do interviews, to be dedicated to the community. And I'm also the founder of a very private, low key membership organization called SFO Continuity. And my more public educational platform, which I'm very proud of, at Family Office Masterclass. So, among the most common questions, and maybe it makes good Friday afternoon fodder. And I have a very busy schedule upcoming next week, which towards the end of my, I think, brief broadcast today, I'll have a chance to mention that because it's some really good stuff. But among the most common questions that I get is Angelo, from your perspective, having been in this industry, this community for so long and traveled the world and hosted programs around the world, like, give us some insight. How do you think the industry has evolved? Where is it headed? I call it the industry, you could call it the community. And the perspective is less so from the actual deep dive, which I do a lot of into single family offices and family offices broadly, and more so into the community kind of servicing them. Now, yes, I know what some of you may say is, Angelo, you were part of it, being the founder and longtime CEO at Family Office Association for like a gazillion years. Maybe you were part of the problem. You're not theoretically incorrect. Having a chance to take a step back, to learn, to reflect, to be humbled, makes me realize I actually did many things very good. I've learned, I cut my teeth, I developed my brand and reputation. But of course, do I have some regrets? Would I do some things differently? And you can make that point in my commentary today. So I'd like to talk a little bit broadly more about, again, what I deem the industry from. And again, I get this question so much. And a one on one conversation, I could be, of course, more open, but kind of the servicing, the membership, the events community, kind of the quote unquote thought leaders that have a platform, I guess I would say. Now, one, I'll start like, wow, it's really changed. I can't believe the family office community is a minimal now of $10 trillion. It is huge and it is growing. It's a tremendous industry to be in, to be competent in, to provide value to quote unquote the ultra high net worth, which most will define at $30 million and up. In the world of the single family office, you're probably looking a little closer to a bigger number than that, but whatever, $100 million and up. Now, yes, do I have to be, and I know I claim to be very blunt and very direct, and in the normal things that I do, I think you see that in a lot of my interviews and work that I'm doing. But I do have to be a little politically correct. I will field questions coming in through the streams. But if it's a direct question, Angelo, what do you think of XYZ conference? I mean, I think it would be a little unfair for me to talk too much from that perspective. But I promise to give a major shout out to what I think is an icon of the community and the industry, and two a little bit lesser shout outs as well. What they have in common is they came before me, and I'm pretty old. I've been in this a long time. So I do have a little ultra respect for kind of the OGs and those that have been doing it a while, especially when they had nothing to follow and they were kind of creators of the community. So this is an amazing community. It's a great community to be in, to start an organization that services it and the family offices themselves. Now, where do I start? You've heard me say this before, and I back it up, I believe, with a lot of facts. It's a very wickedly mediocre community that services via programs, membership, and events. So much of it is only focused on investing, and it really just so overlooks the biggest threat to the family of great wealth, which is underlying the family. First of all, kind of just face reality. If you're a family of wealth or a single family office and you're being invited to something, I'm not going to say all the time, but the vast majority of the time, if you're not paying, I mean, just is there a conflict? How is that organization hosting making money? Are they having, well, yeah, I would assuming others that want to meet you. And who cares about the quality? Just cut their cash the check, right? Or that's the perception. So you are a little bit of the fodder relative by going into that kind of situation. So what do you really expect? I'm going to walk into a five-star hotel or venue and setting, and tens of thousands to hundreds of thousands in cost is going into this. They're not doing it out of the kindness of their heart. The best way is for the family and family office to see the value and for them to be contributors, whether it's a one-off event or whether it's more of a membership organization. Now you may be talking. But again, if a group of advisors or providers is sponsoring, they're going to want to meet you. They're the hunter and you're kind of being hunted. And the quality sometimes could be pretty good and sometimes not. Come on, the quality of the program? Really? The speakers, being on time, deep education, wicked critical thinking, creative thinking, and really not much of a creative thinking industry? I don't really think it's that good. You just have to be realistic. Now, is it possible you may meet a fellow peer and family? You may hear one speaker of some interest. And I think the organizations hosting are, well, maybe with the exception of one, are good at heart. They're entrepreneurs, they're business people. They started a business. The lower hanging fruit is to get sponsors to pay. And they're doing what they do. It's not easy to start something from nothing and then to get traction at it and be quote unquote successful. So I do tip my hat. Many of them are at minimum friends of mine. And I would like to hope that we each learn from each other. But is there incredible deep education? Is there deep resources, truly deep, on family governance, best practices, even taxes, family office structures, let alone areas like deep economics and geopolitical issues? No, I mean, basically, that's kind of the answer. So the most important attributes in the family office broadly are going to be the people by far number one, followed by what I would define as systems. That could be a little broadly into best practices, policy and procedures, protocols, etc., and technology. You could argue the second and third and flip them. That's more than fine. There is no arguing that people are the most important aspect. So they're busy. If you're going to take their time for half a day, or multiple days, especially if they're not financially committed, like they know what it's about if it's kind of for free. Now, there are some exceptions. There's times when you want to maybe do a membership push and do a private lunch or dinner or reception, and you have guests or others that they could see the quality of what you're doing. Sure. But what I'm broadly saying, come on, just face reality. If you're, what's the ratio of real buy side, real single family offices and families versus those that are looking to quote unquote to sell something? Or worse, they're masquerading as a family, where there may be a little bit of truth to that, but they effectively have something to offer. I have made those mistakes as well. If you want to call them mistakes, sometimes they were, and sometimes they were simply a business decision per my business model at that time. It took a while and time for me to grow in my capacity, my capability, which effectively really amounts to my competence to become a deeper thinker, a writer, an author, a pontificator, an interviewer of prominent subjects and people, and to form critical thinking thoughts on the community, coupled with creativity. Now, this industry, from the perspective that I'm talking about it, is wickedly lacking in let's call it revolutionaries. So one of the things I do in one of my case studies and projects with families in my master classes is, are you a historian or are you a revolutionary? And by the way, you could be great being the historian. At least you have some culture, some strategy, and some focus. But most are neither. They're not either a what I would call a historian and definitely not a revolutionary. So no, there is not a lot of revolutionary thinking coming from thought leaders hosting events and programs. They're event organizers. They're probably well meaning, but I wouldn't say they're, let alone historians, understanding a sense of culture and strategy, what worked in the past, and mapping that together from economics to geopolitics to structuring to the history of family offices and some level over time of best practices. But revolutionaries take that to another level. They're hyper creative. They may be a little crazy. Actionary, revolutionary here, Sigma, Enigma. Whoever you are, awesome. I like that. Now a revolutionary is a little bit out of the box. Are they a little crazy? Sometimes do you scratch your head? And I think I mentioned this. In my beta master classes over the summer, one of them on creating or reimagining a family office, it talks about this. It talks about creativity. We have a guest come in, it was digital, and the opportunity to, let's really be creative here. So you have all sorts of things like, could AI run a family office? Is Elon on the right track? Should we be in space as a wealthy family? Possibly Mars. How can we plan for that now? Should we go public? I mean, I hear everything. And at first it sounds crazy, right? But it's worthy of the discussion. It's not necessarily the plan or the strategy. It's the process that you put into it and what comes out of it. And even when you execute and move forward, how you iterate, how you adapt becomes very, very important. Again, my experience, call me a little bit of a hypocrite. You would be not incorrect, but I learn, I adapt. The industry is very vanilla. It's not colorful. It's very safe. I was invited, let's call it a place in Asia, digitally, was digital, hosting something on family offices that wanted me to talk about risk. Like, I wrote and designed sovereign risk for families and disaster prep for billionaires. I'm pretty fluid on the subject, and geopolitics, economics, and a lot of things play into it. Oh, but Angelo, you can't talk about this one specific country. I mean, you can mention them, but you can't say anything negative. Like they're very politically correct. They tell you what to do. And that's the same with the university programs, I think, are generally pretty poor, loaded with bureaucracy, with politics, with leaning heavily one way versus the other, with, I don't know, a lot of professors are academia, but if they're not actively doing it and practical. And I'm sorry, I've seen them on deeper family office issues, and I don't know, it kind of makes me cringe sometimes. So I think there's very, very little from a deep educational and critical and revolutionary and something hyper creative that is going on out there. I think they're, for the most part, 98% of the time, well-meaning. So again, it goes back to, are the families paying? They're going to value and respect if you convince them of your competency, the capability, and the value, the problems that you're going to solve, bring up they don't know they have. Yet also leave them with a sense of optimism because you created a sense of competency, capacity, and capability inside to help the family and the family office become, I don't know if they ever really become, but anti-fragile. So those are very, very, very important things. So the fact that I think so much of this is lacking and there's massive conflicts of interest is what led me to, do my platform on Family Office TV, where I could talk more openly, where in the past, either maybe I didn't know what I didn't know, maybe my bread was buttered on one side, maybe I had a board, which I did, and things to answer to. And now I could be more direct in, I think, an industry that very, very much lacks that. And I enjoy the deep intellectual dive. Again, my life is dedicated to this. I literally research and study, literally, even on the weekends, sad, multiple hours every day. And I learn so much from others, especially the people that are actually it. The family principal, a rising generation member taking over and doing something dynamic, a family office executive that is unique and creative, or someone just incredibly competent and knowledgeable in the community. I mentioned I have a guest upcoming on Friday, Nick, Nik, from Europe. Wow, changed my paradigm. And I thought I knew a fair amount on family governance, how group decisions are made in the family. I know it's not as exciting as direct investing deals. It's like, again, I'm repeating myself from some past things, but that's all I hear about. The family office community is so much more than simply let's do deals. That really isn't a family office, that's an investment office, and that's fine. And investments are a very important part of the family office community. But there's other things that are, depending on the family and their goals, equally, if not more important. And again, there's a reason why shirt sleeves to shirt sleeves in three generations. What's the purpose of the money? How are decisions made? How do you sync everything together? How do you develop capacity and capability, leading to competency? And how do you become a revolutionary, a deep and creative thinker? And these are all unique dynamics that are important to successful family offices, especially single family offices, and effectively benchmarking and best practices, which led me down the road to create an uber private membership organization, limited now to really just 20 people, period. That's it. And yeah, they should be family or SFOs. That does not mean that if there's not someone who's a provider that is so talented that they can't be a speaker, maybe digitally, maybe in person, but do I really kind of want their capital? I mean, there may be some events I do around Art Basel, Miami, around the Milken in LA, and that's something in London where there could be some opportunity where that can make sense. But to me, intimacy, privacy, having the families commit, that's what it's about. Now, my family office masterclass, I think that's for anyone that wants to be incredibly educated, especially digitally, where you're not necessarily interacting in person with others, but you're active with me and my faculty in case studies and bring your problems to the table. Let's do it. Let's solve them. That's why digitally, that's what 24 plus hours now. It seems to get bigger all the time as I come across more things. Those are deep, deep immersions. No one else is doing that. But I did want to go back to something that I noted in my titling, and this may only resonate with those that really understand the family office industry, that have a little bit of history with it. So you young ones may not quite get it, but then shame on you. You should understand the history of the community. Now, no, I'm not going to give the history of SFOs, which theoretically really goes back to Asia. And then you look at probably the Medici family. Of course, got to give a shout out to my fellow Italians, half Italian, back in the 1400s. That led its way through Europe, England, obviously the UK, and here in America, probably the Rockefeller family in the 1800s. Frederick Gates, I believe, was the first SFO executive for the family, and he was a preacher. So the opportunity of empathy, of having moral character, of being a good communicator, to this day, those are like incredibly important things. So shout out from that perspective of the community to what has now become at least a $10 trillion industry and growing rapidly, rapidly. But to more of the industry as I'm describing, what really made it grow, catapulted it decades ago. And again, if you start to name names in the chat, some of them are probably friends of mine. I don't want to really say anything, but I do want to give a shout out publicly, which I don't know if I ever did. But, on the Mount Rushmore of the family office industry, without any question, the first one carved is Sarah Hamilton at Fox. So I wanted to give a shout out to her. Why, 1989? God, before the internet and marketing and social media, well before. She created the industry as the founder of Family Office Exchange and Fox. So any successes I had were built upon the shoulders of her. She's an amazing entrepreneur and became, as I did, it takes time. You don't walk into it, but in time, a deeper thinker and a thought leader relative to the community. She's still the majority shareholder. She's still the chairman of Fox. I have nothing but respect. I don't really have a personal relationship, and that's okay. I've always respected her and what they've done. And again, are they perfect? I'm sure not. Has it become a little big and bureaucratic and maybe a little slow to adapt? Probably. That happens. I understand that as well. But she is at the top of the food chain, and nothing but complete respect and a shout out to the amazing work. And I wouldn't be here in the community if it wasn't for the great work that she's done as an entrepreneur and a trailblazer. And that word revolutionary, that is a revolutionary. So nothing but respect for Sarah Hamilton at Fox. Now I know, well, here in the US, like Jay Hughes in Aspen is his books, like he's the godfather. He's a legend. Go to my family office TV. I interviewed him this summer. Been very fortunate to know Jay for a while. Yes, that's a little different. And he wouldn't have had the platform as all you others in the community who are brilliant. I love some of you. Organizations like hers and others, which I'll name a little bit, the OG, the old guard, the old gangsters, they're the ones that made it possible, that made it grow and expand. Now, I do have to give a shout out to the current CEO at Fox, Family Office Exchange. I've known him for years. He was a consultant. He ran a family office very prominent in Greater Greenwich, Connecticut, in my backyard. So Peter Mazatursky, I always have a little bit of a hard time with his name, but I've known Peter a long time, and I'm sure he's going to do a great job in his role as CEO. But Sarah Hamilton is still the majority shareholder and chairman, and she is a top G. So nothing but respect for her. A couple of years after her, another person I'll point out, who I do know more personally, she was kind enough to meet with me early when I was launching Family Office Association, was Charlotte Bader. You would know as the founder of IPI, the Institute of Private Investors, a good 10, 11 years ago, she had a liquidity event. So it's been a while. But I do think, because again, she didn't have much to follow either in 91, 92, and did a great job. And the higher the level of competition, so it's not just one conglomerate, you would think, the better it is for the end consumer, whether the family or even the advisor, because competition is going to breed not only competition from a pricing perspective, good for you all, maybe not as good for us, but the opportunity hopefully to get eyeballs and to get dollars. Your stuff, I was going to use a different word with an S, it's got to be good. So she's another one. This industry is founded on the backs and shoulders of amazing female entrepreneurs like Sarah and Charlotte. And I'm greatly appreciative for what they've done to lead me down the path of this career. And I'm forever grateful for the heavy lifting they did before me. So one of the problems I have with the young ones now, and certain things I have great respect for the young ones. We should listen more. We have a lot to learn, but they would also benefit from the elders, understanding history, as well as being a revolutionary and what came before them that allowed them to catapult, to potentially become the revolutionary. There were other people before them. There is an other old guard. I can't say that I have specifically a good relationship with them, but I will tip my hat and give them respect. And that would be up in Greater Boston and really have become somewhat of a global organization, the folks and the founders at Triple C. So again, maybe not the warmest folks to me over the years, but that's okay. That's what matters, is the quality of work that they do, what they output. And as a very private group with really no advisors, that's hard to do. They've been doing it for decades, and kind of a shout out to them. Now, again, I think it would be unfair because after I came in the picture, whatever, 17, 18 plus years ago, that seemed to have started a floodgate with a lot of different organizations, really very, very few like thought leaders. They're really events companies, and that's fine. I guess they are what they are. And sometimes a little bit like me, you could start that way, but then grow into a role. So some of it is still to be determined. And I'm fluid, in case you're wondering, with what's going on around the world, from the university family office programs, some of them governmental, like Singapore, Australia, with like Richard Milroy, who's a great guy and doing a great job, to Europe, that has some both old guard organizations, newer people, some very interesting people. So the industry has gotten, I guess you could say, more competitive. I don't know if it's gotten better. Uh, there's more wealth in family offices, right? Like I said, $10 trillion dollars and up. But the work of the titans that I mentioned, it's kind of hard to beat them. Now, again, times change. You have to adapt. I've learned my lessons. I've been humbled. I've made my share of mistakes. Like Sinatra, I have regrets, a few. But I'm so excited about being part of this community. I've been in it for a long time. I guess you could say I've recreated myself. I'm super excited. And it's my love, it's my passion. And I'm not going anywhere for a long, long time. Whether it's Connecticut, whether it's Wyoming, a little bit of Miami. Can you give me St. Bart's 2 or 3 weeks a year? I kind of need that too. Like I'm here. It's amazing. Again, some of the OGs that I mentioned, they didn't have the internet and social media. Imagine how hard it was then to go viral, to get traction. And what I found out with a lot of those, and this kind of happened with me at Family Office Association, there's no overnight miracles. You got to put in the work. You got to struggle. And sometimes those first couple of years, you're making jack, but you love it. You love it. It's a passion. And you will yourself through hard work and discipline to become competent, to become good, to then put yourself out there as an author of white papers, of books, as an interviewer, as a deeper thinker, of being that revolutionary. But I don't think you're just born with it. I mean, even the great Peter Drucker, I love the old legendary consultants. Like, you're not really born a great executive. You develop your competency and then you put in the work, your discipline, you learn. Could you learn how to play baseball by reading a book? Really? Like, you got to do it, and preferably do it with quality mentorship and instruction. And I was fortunate to have some great people around me early on. I mentioned my first president before, Joe Riley, who had more experience in the family office. I'm forever grateful. Generational family members, probably some of them that don't want their name mentioned, still around and still relationships. And I mentioned Charlotte Beyer before, who met with me a couple of times, and indirectly how Sarah Hamilton at Fox at minimum inspired me and kind of pointed the way. And then I have relationships at FOA that were family members that were incredible people that unfortunately are no longer with us. And that's very sad. And I've mentioned them in prior LinkedIn and Facebook's posts before. I don't know if it would be applicable for me to be shouting out names from something from that perspective now, but I am forever grateful for their. Sorry if I'm getting a little bit emotional, but they were supportive of me when I was nothing in this industry. And there was nothing in it for them. Nothing. I probably wasted their time. Yet I could easily think of 5 or 6 of them, a fair number, that stayed with me, and hopefully, although I might have let them down here or there, hopefully I also made them proud as well. So I make no bones about it. I'm imperfect, but I have my strengths. And when I'm disciplined, I'm disciplined. And you can never take away my love and my passion for the family office, specifically the single family office community. So this is very, very important to me. But it was important to give respect to those that came before, that did an amazing job. And I do think that Sarah Hamilton, specifically at Fox, AKA Family Office Exchange, deserves a little bit of an extra shout out. And I don't know why there's not more people from the community showing respect for the work that she did. It doesn't matter if she was nice to you per se, or what you thought about her. Like, it's what matters is the quality of her work and output in an industry probably dominated by men that she had to overcome, as well as Charlotte, a lot of these things, and did it, and did it great. Great. Probably better than any of you out there now, you young guns that may be smart, that may be a witty writer, and doing some interesting things, but pay respect to those who came before you. It's okay to say, well, I'm going to be better. Maybe you will. You got a long road to go, but who knows? I'm not going to hold it against you. Who knows what the future may hold? Everything is changing rapidly. Look at this community. Look at the velocity of destruction. Look at geopolitics, economics, all the problems we have. So there's lots of work to be done for these families. So what do I have upcoming? Now, you may hear this as a recording a month from now, and the part I'm going to talk about now would be beyond dated. Although most of what I spoke about is really evergreen, and respect for those that came in the past is always something that is earned on their part and worthy. And I still have a long way to go to reach the top of the mountain that I'll probably never get to, but that I want to. And that's important for me. But this upcoming week, I may do a little solo tomorrow morning on Saturday morning, a little bit about kind of the velocity of destruction. So much is going on geopolitically and the impact on family offices, but more importantly than just me, upcoming during the week, Monday, 4 o'clock Eastern, the return of Green Beret and entrepreneur and investment banker E.M. Burlingame, an author as well. That guy on geopolitics. You may disagree with him, by the way. I'm sure I do on certain things, and that's okay. But we're going to go deep. Now, you should go to Family Office TV and watch my quasi part one with him, which was probably about 2 hours from this summer, so relatively recent. But now there's more to talk about. And now there's maybe a little bit more kind of solutions and options, for lack of a better word. And he is definitely part of my dream team, and especially the work that I do in sovereign risk and disaster preparedness for quote unquote the super rich and family offices. On Tuesday, I got the return of one of the earlier people that I met with when I was launching Family Office Association, the brilliant, the one and only, probably the lead consultant on MFOs in the world. I'm going to give you some comp, my brother, on the SFO community. But that would be Jamie McLaughlin, incredibly smart and talented person. And we're going to talk about your SFO converting to an MFO. And I'm going to ask, is it a good idea? Thursday, Ram Oluwalia, he also was on in a live about 2 months ago. He is incredibly gifted and smart. I've known him for years, more as a private investor and kind of family office guy, and now running his own organization, working with other families, doing amazing things. And we're going to kind of compare the US to the BRICS, the threat to the US dollar, and opportunities in a lot of different ways where the US has advantages and where it doesn't. And again, I'm just tired of only talking about direct deals, of only talking about governance, and even then, probably pretty badly. There's so much more. Put yourself out there. Don't be so boring and vanilla. Sometimes you do have to rock the boat. Not everyone's going to love me. That's okay. I can't tell you how many times I get told to shave my beard, as if that has anything to do with my IQ and the output of what I do. Okay, so I look like an older Dan Bilzerian. I'm getting kind of tired of hearing that, but if you want to throw it at me, I'll take it indirectly, even though you may not mean it as a compliment. And then Friday, remember I mentioned how my dynamic on governance was changed? Well, this dude from Europe, this Dominic A. Nern, Nick, N-I-K as he likes to be called, I'm going to have him on. You're going to get another kind of member of my dream team and connections that is so smart. I know governance may not sound as exciting as investing or geopolitics. It's kind of everything. If you want to be great in the family office world, if you want to be better within your own family, whether you're rich or not, knowing character and morals, understanding how decisions are made, family constitution, having a vision, having a mission, having a strategy. I mean, really, that's not important. That is like everything. And from there, the ability to adapt, and be anti-fragile, which is really where it comes from, your competency, capacity, and capability. But those are all things. So we have a very, 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 very busy week. I'm excited to do longer form interviews, to share things on my lives, my YouTube, my LinkedIn for free. I'm happy to give back to the community that gave me so much. And I learn from these interviews as well. And if you all are able to pick up one or two things here or there, I think it's worth it. If you want to be more active in what I do on a private level, whether it's with if it's with SFO continuity, my master classes, which I'm very, very proud of, and sometimes those initiatives lead to private consulting that I do and that I'm very proud of. And like a lot of people don't know, I've created or reimagined over 20 single family offices around the world, and hopefully being revolutionary and creative, doing things not differently for the sake of doing things differently, but this goes back to what I say about being top 1% in an industry that would or could be very quantifiable, and the competition's intense and fierce. That would be really hard to do. But this industry is not like that. Even as an advisor or as a family office executive, you really could go from being below average or definitely mediocre to being really, really good. And I believe I could make you, and probably some others could too, that quickly. And again, that's time and energy on my part, and the compensation or how we value that is money. So I'm an entrepreneur. I make no bones about it. I think I do a fair amount for free, and I'm happy to do so in an opaque industry that has the experience and global hands-on experience that I've had over decades. So you can learn about all of that at angelorobles.com. I think by now you all know where to find me on social media. Don't forget I have two YouTubes, Family Office TV and at Family Office. Kind of subscribe to both. And I hope you enjoyed a little bit of my Friday. And obviously this week has been a tough week around the world and very sad in terms of what's going on. Innocent people from either perspective, it's just terrible. The world is not always a fair place. And it's it's a tough one. It's a very, very, very much a tough one. And we'll, dive into more of the geopolitical and economic perspective in some of the upcoming conversations that I noted. Like I said, there's more going on in the world that you don't know than you know. It is how the world works is very, very different. It adapts and changes. And as a family office, these are things you have to be very, very much on top of. Everyone deserves respect. Like I say, I learn from everyone. Yes, I have visited people in prisons before, and yes, they have something to teach me. They do something better than me. How they process information, how they play chess. I don't know what it is, but I have something to learn from everyone. We're all be the best version of yourself that you could be, and it could truly be amazing. You might even surprise yourself. So yeah, we're living in a challenging world, right? But maybe has it always been that way? It's just more open now from the internet and social media, nuclear, and yeah, so it's getting accelerated. Why don't I put it that way? So who knows? I'm not a politician. I definitely don't have the answers, but I got a hell of a lot of questions. I got a lot of questions. And these are the kind of conversations that you're really not going to see others have within the family office world, because it's just not how the family office world works. So hopefully you all appreciate that. I see some things coming in. Very kind. Thank you, Hans. Yes, I appreciate the haters as well. You could say my beard sucks and my taste in college football teams isn't good and I talk too much, which is true. Of course, the first two you're wrong, but in my latter one, and I hopefully try to marry intellect with a level of humor and creativity that I sometimes think is lacking in the community. So on that note, again, a shout out to all that came before me. An extra shout out again in this community to Sarah Hamilton at Fox, aka Family Office Exchange, a true revolutionary and a trailblazer. Interesting comments coming in. Thank you. And I hope you all have a great weekend. You can reach out to me anytime. Again, angelorobles.com. So obviously my email should be angelo@angelorobles.com, or just DM me on social media. Don't forget, I got all those programs upcoming, especially on live. So stay tuned. Next week will be very, very busy. But if you want the real stuff, the personalized, the customized, the hands-on, the work that I've been doing for decades, you just reach out to me and let's see where it goes. On that note, everyone, have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. Thank you all so much. I appreciate you.